Welcome, sleepy one. I'll be your storyteller tonight. Before we begin, please like and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And now, close your eyes. Let's begin. I hate long drives at night. The way the world narrows to two white lines and a heartbeat. The hum of the tires always sounds the same. Steady, rhythmic, hypnotic. When I'm driving alone, it becomes something else. A pulse that doesn't belong to me. I'm Aaron Wexler, 32 night shift EMT in Ridgefield, Ohio. After enough years on the job, you learn that darkness itself isn't the thing to fear. It's what hides inside it. But that night, even the darkness felt alive. Rain came in thin sheets across the windshield, silver veins under the streetlights. The wipers moved like a slow pulse back and forth, keeping time with my breathing. The air smelled like wet asphalt and coffee gone stale. I was 20 minutes from home when my phone buzzed in the cup holder. I almost ignored it. Calls after midnight usually meant another dispatch, another wreck, another stranger bleeding in the road. But it wasn't a call. It was a message. From Lena. At first, that didn't make sense. The screen was cracked, from the crash last month. But I could still read the text through the spiderweb lines. Don't turn around. She's in the passenger seat, I laughed, out loud, because grief does that to you. It breaks you, then gives you moments of absurdity. Except then I remembered. Lena had been dead 8 months. A heartbeat later, the laughter caught in my throat. I glanced at the empty road ahead, black asphalt glistening under white light. Then back at the phone. The message was still there. Time-stamped 1 minute ago. The heater coughed a gust of air. It felt wrong, cold instead of warm. The interior of the car shifted almost imperceptibly, as though weight had changed on the seat beside me. I told myself I was imagining it. I always did. Rain whispered harder against the glass. My breath fogged faintly. I adjusted the defroster and caught in the far right corner of the windshield a reflection that didn't belong there. A shape. Still. Sitting. My fingers clenched on the steering wheel. The leather felt slick. The shape moved, or maybe the light shifted, and I saw hair first, wet, dripping down pale skin. I told myself, out loud, it's nothing. But the air was too heavy to be nothing. I blinked, forced my eyes back to the road, and tried to breathe in rhythm with the wipers. In, out, left, right. The seatbelt on the passenger side was fastened. I hadn't fastened it. My phone buzzed again. Same contact, same name. I hadn't said out loud in months, keep driving. Don't let her see you see her. I felt a shiver start deep in my spine, crawl upward through the base of my skull. Lena? I whispered. The name sounded wrong in the air, like it didn't belong in this version of the world. Outside, the road looked endless. Headlights carved narrow tunnels through the fog. Inside, I could hear the hum of the engine, and beneath it, something else. A second breath. It matched mine at first, then drifted slower, a deliberate, patient kind of breathing. Static crackled through the car speakers, even though the radio was off. The sound built thin and whispering like words caught inside a storm. Then I heard it, my name. Soft, almost tender Aaron, once. Then again slower, like she was learning it all over again. I swallowed. My tongue felt dry. I wanted to glance sideways to prove the seat was empty, but something in the text kept replaying in my head. Don't let her see you see her. So I kept my eyes on the road, gripping the wheel until my knuckles whitened. Rain turned to mist. The lines on the asphalt shimmered like veins under skin. The smell changed. Not just damp now. Metallic. Sweet. The scent that follows an accident long after the lights go. Out her breath, if that's what it was, and brushed my ear closer than before. I whispered to no one. You're not real, but she was. I could feel her. Cold, wet fingers touched my right hand, gentle at first, tracing the ridge of my knuckle, then pressing down. I flinched. The car swerved across the yellow line. Tires hissed against water. I yanked the wheel back, heartbeat slamming in my throat. For a split second, headlights flashed across the passenger seat, and I saw her. Hair plastered to her cheeks, skin gray, Lips blue. Empty sockets. Broken teeth that glinted like glass. I slammed the brakes. The car spun. Light and darkness twisted together until the world went white. Then silence. When I opened my eyes, the engine was idling. I was parked in front of my house. No crash. No skid marks, just quiet. The passenger seat was empty, seatbelt unbuckled, phone screen cracked. One unread text, "You looked." I sat there shaking. My throat tasted like rust. Rain tapped soft against the roof, lighter now, like it had never meant harm. I should have gone inside. But the thought of stepping out, of turning my back to that seat, made my skin crawl. So I sat there. For minutes, maybe hours, watching the mirror, waiting for something to move. Nothing did. Still, I could feel her, like she'd seeped into the upholstery, into the hum of the engine. That night, I dreamed of her face, not how she looked at the funeral, not even how she looked the day she died, but how she looked in the car. Wet, hollow, hungry. When I woke, the imprint of a hand was on the inside of the passenger window. Small, smudged, like condensation, but darker. Oily, almost. I wiped it away before sunrise. It came back the next night. I told myself it was my own breath. Misplaced. That's what grief does. It makes you invent logic for impossible things. At work, I started keeping the radio on in the ambulance, even between calls. The silence reminded me too much of that drive. My partner Ricky noticed. "You good, man?" he asked one night. We were parked behind the hospital waiting for a call. The night was thick with fog. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." He nodded, but his eyes lingered. He didn't ask about the bruise on my wrist. The one shaped like fingers. A week passed. Then two. Each night when I drove home, the road felt longer, like the town was stretching. Sometimes I saw flashes of her in the reflection of passing cars. A silhouette in their passenger seats, head tilted toward me. Once I thought I saw her on the sidewalk. Just standing there. When I blinked, she was gone. I stopped telling myself it was nothing, but I didn't tell anyone else either. Because how do you explain that your dead wife keeps finding her way into your car? The texts didn't stop. They came sporadically. Middle of the night, no pattern. "Are you driving again? She misses you. Stop looking in mirrors." Each message came from the same number, the one buried with her phone. I went to the cemetery once, out of guilt. It was raining, and it always seemed to be raining now. Her headstone looked smaller than I remembered. The ground around it was soft, muddy, like it had been disturbed recently. A crow perched on the cross next to her name. It didn't move when I approached. I wanted to speak. To apologize maybe, but words felt wrong in my mouth. Instead, I reached out and laid my palm against the stone. It was warm. I left without looking back. That night, the car alarm went off at 3:17 a.m. When I stepped outside, the passenger door was open. Rain poured in, soaking the seat. I should have felt anger. Instead, I felt relief. At least it proved I wasn't imagining things. I left the door open until dawn. By morning, it was closed again. The smell of damp hair lingered for days. Sleep stopped coming easily after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her mouth moving, whispering words I couldn't hear. Sometimes I'd wake to find my phone glowing on the nightstand, screen unlocked. Message draft open, words typed but unsent. Come back. I thought maybe I was sleep texting. Until one morning I noticed the wet fingerprint smudge on the screen. Work started to suffer. I made small mistakes, missed vitals, wrong street numbers. Ricky covered for me, but I saw the worry in his face. One night he said, "You ever think about selling that car?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't, because I'd already tried. 2 days earlier I'd listed it online. A guy came to see it, middle-aged, friendly enough. He took one look inside, frowned, and said he'd changed his mind. When I asked why, he pointed at the fogged passenger window. "There's someone sitting there," he said. When I turned, the seat was empty, but the seatbelt was buckled. He left without another word. After that, I stopped trying to sell it. I told myself I'd drive one last time. Just once more to prove I could. It was a Friday. Quiet, no rain for once. The sky was bruised purple. the kind of dusk that never quite decides to become night. I started the engine. Static filled the radio even before I turned it on. Halfway down the highway, the smell returned, that faint metallic sweetness that didn't belong to this world. The dashboard clock flickered, then went dark. I kept driving. The road stretched longer than it ever had. Landmarks disappeared. No towns, no exits, just the endless hum beneath the tires. Then, breath. Close again, right beside me. I said her name. Soft. Apologetic. The air shifted, and for the first time, I turned my head. She was there, closer than before. Eyes empty but fixed on me. Her lips moved. The voice that came out was barely sound. "Why did you leave me?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't even know if she meant the accident, the night she died, or something older, something between us that had died long before she did. I reached out without thinking. Her hand met mine. Cold. Familiar. The car veered. The world spun again. When it stopped, there was no sound at all, only her voice, whispering from everywhere. "You looked." The headlights blinked out. I don't remember getting home, but every night since I find myself behind the wheel again. Engine running, headlights off. Sometimes I drive without knowing where I'm going. Sometimes I don't remember turning the key, but always, when the windshield fogs and the seatbelt clicks beside me, softly, automatically, and I know she's there waiting to buckle in. You ever hit something on the road and tell yourself it was nothing? That's what I did. It's strange how easily you can convince yourself the world is fine, even when it isn't. That night, I told myself everything was fine. The air smelled like wet dirt and gasoline. Fog hung low enough to kiss the headlights, soft and white and endless. The road was narrow, the kind of two-lane blacktop that feels more like a memory than a place. I'm Mason Price, 30. Returning home from a weekend shift in Briar Creek, Kentucky. I'd been working out near the oil fields, 12-hour nights drinking burnt coffee, pretending the paycheck was worth it. By the time I left, my head felt full of static. The highway was empty. No cars for miles. Just me, my old sedan, and the faint hum of tires spinning against damp asphalt. I've always liked driving at night. There's something honest about it. Like the world gets stripped down to light and shadow and the sound of your own breathing. But that night, the quiet didn't feel clean. It felt like the world was waiting for me to do something wrong. Fog thickened around the car, swallowing the road ahead. The headlights were two pale tunnels barely cutting through it. That's when it happened. A flash of movement. Low, fast, crossing from right to left. I didn't even have time to swear. My foot hit the brake too late. The sound was awful. A soft, heavy thud. Not like metal. Like meat. The car jerked hard. My body lurched against the seatbelt. The sound still plays in my head like a bag of wet sand hitting the hood. For a second, the only thing I could hear was my heartbeat, sharp and uneven. Then silence. I pulled over. Tires hissed against gravel. Steam rose from the hood, curling up like breath from a dying thing. The air smelled wrong, burnt rubber and iron, the tang of something sharp and metallic. I stepped out. The fog wrapped around me instantly. It felt thick enough to chew. The road was empty. No movement. No sound. Just mist, asphalt, and the glow of my headlights cutting through the void. I walked around to the front of the car. No dent, no fur, nothing. My hands shook as I crouched down, the gravel damp beneath my palms. I half expected to see a raccoon or a deer, some poor thing I could at least name. But there was nothing. Then I saw it. A line of marks trailing away from the car. Thin, dark streaks across the pavement. They didn't look like skid marks. They looked like something had been dragged, or had dragged itself. Each streak glistened faintly under the light, sticky and uneven. I swallowed hard and followed them. Each step felt heavier. My boots made soft sounds like peeling skin off tar. The mist thickened as I moved, wrapping tighter, muting the world. The marks led toward the back of my car. That's when I saw it. A hand, small, pale, human, crawling toward the bumper. It twitched once, twice, fingers flexing like it still remembered life. I stumbled backward. Breath caught halfway up my throat. The hand stopped, then curled, like it recognized me. I couldn't move. I couldn't even think. I grabbed my flashlight, the one I kept under the seat, and aimed it beneath the car. The beam caught something else. A face, half buried in the dirt. Eyes open, mouth moving, soundless, the lips formed one word. Why? I froze. Every muscle locked. The voice I didn't hear was louder than anything real. I don't remember dropping the flashlight, but I remember the sound it made, a hollow clatter swallowed by fog. When the beam rolled back toward the car, the face was gone, just wet ground. I ran. I jumped into the driver's seat, slammed the door, started the engine. The tires spun on wet gravel before gripping, spitting stones behind me as I floored it. The radio flickered on by itself. Static filled the car, rising in waves. Then, through it, a voice, slow, broken. You left me there. I shut it off. Static bled through anyway. The rearview mirror fogged. For a second, through the haze, I saw her, a woman, gray, still, sitting behind me, cradling that hand in her lap. Her head tilted slightly, like she was listening to the sound of the tires. I didn't look again. I couldn't. I just kept driving. The road curved and stretched like a vein through the dark. I drove until sunrise, parked by the river, sat there with the engine off, listening to it tick as it cooled. The fog had burned away, replaced by thin gold light filtering through the trees. When I finally worked up the nerve, I stepped out. The world looked normal again. Birds, water, wind. I crouched beside the car. Nothing. No hand, no face. No blood. Just the smell. That thick coppery scent of something that shouldn't be there. I scrubbed the bumper with a rag until my hands hurt. The smell didn't fade. I drove home with the windows down, letting the wind whip through. By the time I reached the edge of town, I'd convinced myself it was exhaustion, hallucination, sleep deprivation. I told myself stories the way you do when you can't live with the truth. But when I pulled into my driveway, the smell came back, not faint, not imagined, strong, wet, like something was rotting under the car. I crouched again, shining the flashlight underneath. Nothing. Still, I could hear it, a faint wet sound like something dragging across metal. I told myself it was just the engine cooling. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in the fog. Eyes open, mouth moving, the word looping soundlessly. Why? I called in sick the next morning. By afternoon, I was back on that same road. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I saw it in daylight, it'd lose its power. Maybe I just needed to know I hadn't lost my mind. The sky was flat and gray, the kind of color that makes everything look like an old photograph. When I reached the spot, or what I thought was the spot, I pulled over. There were faint stains on the asphalt, but it could have been anything. Oil, dirt, shadows. I followed the shoulder, kicking at gravel. That's when I saw the drag marks again. Fresh, leading off the road, into the ditch. I stopped breathing for a moment. The grass was wet, slick with dew. My boots made no sound as I stepped down. The smell hit before I saw it. Rot. Sweet, heavy, unmistakable. I shined the flashlight. Mud, water, a torn piece of fabric caught on a branch. Blue cotton, the kind of color hospital scrubs come in. I froze. My mouth went dry. I knew that color. It was the same uniform I'd been wearing that night. The night I'd left Briar Creek. Medical after my shift. The same uniform she wore. Her name was Elena, the new nurse. The one I'd carpooled with for a month before she stopped showing up. They said she quit. Moved back home. But she hadn't. Not really. The flashlight flickered. The light dimmed to a pulse. A shape moved in the ditch. Slow, Crawling. A hand. Small. Pale. Dragging itself through the mud toward the road. My heart punched against my ribs so hard I thought they'd break. I stumbled backward, fell against the hood. The hand stopped moving. The fingers twitched. Then the mud rippled. Something else rose from the dark. Shoulders. A head hair clinging wetly to skin. Her eyes opened. Not white. Not black. Just hollow. She smiled. And in that moment I remembered everything. The night I dropped her off. The rain, the flash of headlights. The thud. I hadn't hit a deer, I'd hit her. I never checked, never stopped long enough to see. She wasn't found. The police said she'd vanished after her shift. Everyone assumed she'd run. But she hadn't. She'd been waiting. The mud bubbled around her. The dragging marks spread, curling into the road like veins. I turned and ran, jumped into the car. Started the engine. The radio came on by itself, static. Then her voice. Soft. You left me there. The headlights flickered. I pressed the gas. The tires spun, catching mud and stone. When the car lurched forward, I saw her in the mirror again, sitting in the back seat, cradling the hand against her chest. Her lips moved, slow and wet. Why? The rear view fogged until all I could see was my own reflection behind hers. I drove until the road blurred, until my mind felt like it was splitting open. When the sun rose, I was parked by the river again. The smell still filled the car. I stepped out, knees weak. No blood. No body. But when I crouched beside the wheel, the dirt was different. New tracks. Dragging marks leading back toward the road. Like something had crawled away. I didn't follow them this time. I just stood there, breathing in the smell of iron and damp air, and realized something simple. I wasn't sure if I'd left her or if she'd left me. Now, whenever I drive that same road, I see them appear again, those faint marks shining in my headlights. They always lead back toward the same spot. And every time I hear that soft, wet thud, I keep driving, because this time, I don't want to know what's trying to crawl back home. It started with the radio. They always say never drive tired, but they never warn you about what finds you when you're half awake. The night smelled like rain and diesel. The kind of smell that clings to your skin no matter how many showers you take after. I'm Caleb Horn, 33, long-haul trucker from Ashbury, Illinois. I'd been on the road for 14 hours straight, hauling grain from a depot in Missouri back toward home. Route 59, a straight, narrow cut through flat country. Nothing but cornfields, fog, and the dull hum of tires under a sky too big to care. It was the kind of drive that eats your thoughts alive if you don't feed them noise. So I had the radio on. Old country songs drifting in and out of static, the voices warbling like they were underwater. I'd been flipping stations for hours trying to find something that didn't sound like ghosts whispering through broken glass. Then I caught a new frequency. A voice, faint, coming to hiding just behind the music. I thought it was talk radio until it said my name. Caleb Horn, seatbelt on, eyes on the road. I froze. My hand hovered over the dial. The voice laughed softly. Then it began describing me. Gray hoodie, coffee cup on the dash, left turn signal blinking for no reason. I glanced down. The blinker was on. I hadn't touched it. I shut the radio off. Silence. For a second, I thought maybe it was just exhaustion, some kind of auditory glitch from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. Then the radio clicked back on by itself. Don't touch the dial again. The voice was clearer now. The static had a rhythm, like breathing. I stared at the glowing red numbers on the radio display. 33.7, a station I'd never heard before. The signal sharpened. A woman's voice this time, soft, familiar somehow. Keep driving. Caleb, you're almost home. The way she said it, steady, warm, made something in my chest tighten. Because that was what Mara used to say. My wife. She'd been dead for 3 years. I gripped the wheel tighter, the leather rough beneath my fingers. The fog ahead shimmered faintly, swallowing the road. The GPS on my dash flickered. The route blinked, then changed. Destination updated. Static lane. I frowned. Never heard of it, I muttered. No streetlights, no exits. Just endless black beyond the beams of my headlights. The engine hummed lower, like it was straining. I reached for the radio again, ready to pull the fuse if I had to. The voice cut in. Eyes on the road. Caleb. I jerked my hand back. My throat was dry. I swallowed air that tasted like metal. I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. You're losing it, man. Long shifts. Sleep deprivation. That's all. But the voice, her voice, didn't stop. Almost there. The GPS map turned gray. No towns, no lines. Just that blinking arrow floating in nothing. Outside, the fog grew so thick it felt solid. The headlights only reached a few feet before dissolving. Something about the silence underneath the static made my scalp crawl. The hum of the truck was the only proof the world hadn't stopped. Then, the steering wheel stiffened. I tried to turn. It locked completely. The truck kept rolling straight, slow, and steady. Like something else had taken control. My pulse hammered. I pressed the brake. Nothing. The radio hissed louder, layers of static folding over themselves until it sounded like hundreds of whispers buried inside one another. I slammed my fist against the wheel. Stop it. Every station on the radio began playing the same voice. Some were ahead of me, some were behind, and one was whispering from the passenger seat. I turned my head. The air beside me shimmered faintly, like heat rippling off asphalt. A sound came from it, soft, wet, like a microphone being dragged across someone's lips. Then I saw it. A radio microphone, old and scuffed, pressed against my shoulder. It wasn't mine. A thick black cord snaked down the seat and disappeared into the dark behind me. The voice came through the speakers again, calm, deliberate. You're home now. The truck shuddered once, twice, and then died. No headlights. No sound but the faint crawling static still bleeding through the speakers. I sat there gripping the wheel, staring into the black. The world felt too big outside the glass. The smell of rain mixed with something electrical. Ozone. Burning metal. I tried the key. Nothing. Tried the door. Locked. When I turned my head toward the passenger side, I caught movement in the reflection of the window. A silhouette. Sitting there. I couldn't see a face, just the outline of a head tilted toward me, the faint glow of the radio reflecting where eyes should be. I whispered, "Mara," before I even realized I'd said it. The voice in the radio laughed again. Almost home. Then silence. The fog outside the windshield pulsed faintly, like something breathing. I sat there until dawn. When the first light bled through the trees, the fog lifted. The radio was quiet again. The keys worked. The truck rumbled back to life like nothing had happened. But the GPS still read, "Static lane, arrived." The map showed no road. Just a gray field. I drove until I found the highway again. The air felt normal. The world had edges again. By the time I reached Ashbury, I'd almost convinced myself it was some twisted dream brought on by exhaustion. But then I noticed the dirt on the tires. Thick. Red. Not the color of any soil I knew. That night, at the truck stop diner, I mentioned it to another driver, Tommy, an old-timer who'd run routes since before I was born. He stopped stirring his coffee. "Static lane," he said quietly. "You sure you heard that?" I nodded. He didn't look at me again. Just muttered, "That road doesn't exist anymore." When I asked what he meant, he stood up and left his cup half full. I didn't sleep that night because I started hearing it again. Not the static. The voice. Soft, buried under the hum of my mini fridge. "Keep driving, Caleb." Everywhere I went after that, the sound followed. The CB radio in my cab turned on by itself. The dashboard flickered at random. Sometimes, I'd catch her voice between songs on other stations. One clear word cutting through a flood of white noise. Home. After a week, I started checking routes before every trip. Terrified I'd see those two words again. Static lane. I told myself it was superstition, a driver's paranoia, but the fear didn't fade. Then 2 nights ago, I got a new job assignment. An overnight haul through a town I didn't recognize. I typed the destination into the GPS. It loaded. Coordinates only. No city name. The route appeared. One road, long, straight. The name flickered before settling. Static lane. My stomach turned to water. I tried to delete it. The system froze. When I shut the screen off, the speakers whispered in the dark. "You're almost home." I ripped the radio from the dash, wires snapping. Silence for a second. Then a soft click. The sound of another radio turning on somewhere, behind me. I turned slowly. On the passenger seat sat an old CB, microphone. Its red light blinked, once. A voice whispered through the small, cracked speaker. "Keep driving, Caleb." The light flickered again. "You're almost home." I didn't move. Couldn't. The truck's engine started on its own. The dashboard glowed faint blue. The GPS lit up one more time. Static lane, route active. The fog returned, thicker than ever. I could smell rain again. Diesel. And something else. Warm metal. Like blood on a radiator. The headlights cut through nothing. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. The steering wheel began to turn by itself, slow and deliberate. The radio speakers all around me whispered at once, dozens of voices layered together. Seatbelt on. Eyes on the road. My breath hitched. The air tasted like copper. The sound grew louder, the voices looping into each other until they became one, hers. "Keep driving, Caleb." I screamed for it to stop, slammed the brakes, killed the ignition. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. I was parked on a dirt road lined with trees I didn't recognize. The GPS still glowed. Static lane arrived. The radio was silent, but in the reflection of the glass, for a split second I saw her sitting next to me, smiling, the old CB microphone resting in her lap. Now, every time I drive that route, no matter the weather or the load, the signal finds me again. Same voice, same words. "Keep driving, Caleb, you're almost home." I used to love night drives. The quiet, the rhythm of the road, the feeling that the world belonged only to me. There's something almost holy about an empty highway after midnight. No headlights behind you. No one ahead, just that steady hum beneath your hands, the sound of your own life moving forward. I'm Daniel Hart, 34 delivery driver from Cedar Hollow, Indiana. That night I was heading home after a 12-hour shift, half asleep, half alive. The air smelled of damp asphalt and gasoline. My wipers squeaked across the windshield in lazy arcs. I'd had 2 cups of gas station coffee, both cold now, both sitting in the cup holder like evidence of bad decisions. It should have been a simple route. County line to I-76. Merge onto the highway. Drive 40 minutes, get home. Kiss my wife on the forehead, collapse into bed. But somewhere along that stretch, the familiar turned strange. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was my exhaustion playing tricks. The green reflective glow of a mile marker appeared ahead, 73. A minute later, another one. 3, then another. Same number, same dented corner on the sign. I frowned, rubbed my eyes. I knew the route, I'd driven it for years. There should have been 74, then 75, all the way to 81 by the turnoff. I told myself I must have looped somehow. Maybe there was a detour I'd missed. The hum of the tires deepened as the pavement changed texture, like the road was breathing underneath me. I glanced at the clock. 12:37 a.m. The digital numbers glowed weak red, trembling faintly like candlelight. I drove another mile. Still 73. I started counting out loud, just to prove something to myself. 1 mile, 2, 3. Still the same number. Soft, static hums. The radio clicked on by itself. Just a low hiss of static. I turned the dial, searching for a voice, anything. A preacher, a pop song, the late-night weather report. Nothing but static. I killed the power. Then my GPS screen flickered. The cheerful voice said, calm as ever, continue straight for 10 miles. But the map was blank. No highway, no town, no route. Just a gray void stretching across the screen like fog. My chest tightened. I tapped the screen, no response. Come on, I muttered, smacking the dashboard. The air vents blew a breath of cold air in my face, the scent sharp and metallic, like wet pennies. I looked out again. Another sign. Mile marker 73. But now, underneath the numbers, a second line had appeared. Stay on the road. I slowed down, staring. The reflective paint shimmered faintly blue, letters uneven like they'd been scrawled by hand. Real funny, I said to no one, voice shaking more than I meant it to. Probably some kid screwing around. The steering wheel felt slick under my palms. Sweat or rain, I couldn't tell which. I pressed the gas harder. The trees on either side blurred into black streaks. The air thickened, heavy, like driving underwater. After a few minutes, another sign. Same number, same words. Mile marker 73, stay on the road. I tried to call Hannah, my wife, but the signal bar was gone. No service. When I glanced at the rearview mirror, the world behind me was gone too. No road. No sky. Just black. It felt like the highway ended 5 feet behind the car, like the rest of existence had shut off. I eased off the accelerator, letting the car coast. The sound of gravel under the tires faded until it became silence. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. A figure, standing by the mile marker ahead, facing away. I tapped the brakes, headlights catching the outline, tall still, dark clothes clinging to a body that didn't seem to breathe. Hey, I called out through the open window. My voice vanished into the quiet. I honked once. The figure didn't move. The sign behind it shimmered. The number glowed brighter. 73. I leaned forward, squinting, my heart thudding against the seatbelt. And then it was gone. Just gone. Except, when I blinked, it was standing 5 feet closer. The same position, same posture, like a skipping frame in a broken film reel. I slammed the gas pedal down. The tires screeched, the car fishtailed, and for one long breathless second I thought I saw the figure's head turn. Not all the way. Just enough. Enough to show the corner of a jawline that looked familiar. Too familiar. I tore past, eyes fixed dead ahead, refusing to look again. But when the headlights hit the next stretch, there it was again. Same stance, same distance from the road, same mile marker, 3 behind it. I could feel my pulse beating in my teeth. I tried the radio again, static, then a click, and a voice. Low, calm, familiar. Welcome back, Daniel. My hand froze on the dial. The voice wasn't the GPS, wasn't the radio host. It was mine. I yanked the plug from the power outlet. Static still bled through the speakers. You took the wrong turn again. I stared at the dash. My reflection in the dark glass looked pale, distant. The voice came softer now, closer. Stay on the road. Something about the words triggered a memory. Faint, slippery. The last argument with Hannah before my accident last year. Her shouting, you never stay on the road, you never stay anywhere. I shook the thought away. You're tired, I told myself. You're just tired. I kept driving. Every few minutes, another sign, every one of them 73. I rolled the window down. Cold air hit me like a slap. I could smell the woods, wet bark, something faintly sweet underneath like rotting fruit. The hum beneath the tires changed pitch. The road wasn't asphalt anymore. It sounded grainier, coarser, like gravel grinding against metal. I turned on the high beams. The light caught something glinting on the ground. Nails, scattered in a spiral pattern across the lane. I swerved around them, heart hammering. Behind me, in the mirror, they were gone. The figure was there instead, standing dead center in the lane. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles bone white. "Not real," I whispered. "Not real." The GPS lit up again. A single line of text flickered on the blank screen. "Look at him." I didn't. I couldn't. My peripheral vision caught the faintest movement, something shifting in the passenger seat. The air inside the car grew colder, the kind of cold that feels wet. I reached out to turn off the AC. The dial snapped off in my fingers. The static on the radio deepened until it almost sounded like breathing. Then, beneath it, a whisper. "Daniel." I gritted my teeth. "No, Daniel, you shouldn't have left." The voice was mine again, but layered, echoing like two versions of me speaking over each other, one a fraction slower. The headlights flickered. The figure by the next sign lifted its head. I saw its face, my own, eyes pale as glass, smile wrong, too wide, stretching where it shouldn't. I hit the brakes. The car skidded sideways, engine choking. The world around me blinked, on, off, on, like a dying bulb. When it steadied, the road ahead was empty. I sat there, engine rumbling, trying to breathe. My chest felt heavy, my hand shaking against the wheel. The mirror caught my face, except the reflection smiled. I didn't. The headlights dimmed, flickered out. The engine died. Silence pressed in, thick and absolute. For a long moment I sat without moving. The only sound was my heartbeat. Then the static returned, faint and rhythmic. It wasn't from the radio anymore, it was coming from outside, from the mile marker. A dull, humming vibration, almost like a voice buried under static, whispering, "Welcome back." I opened the door. The cold hit me like a wall. The night smelled different now, cleaner, sharper, as if rain had just fallen though the sky was dry. I stepped out. Gravel crunched under my boots. The sign stood a few yards away, number glowing faint green. And beside it, the figure. Closer now. Head tilted. Same jacket, same face, same eyes. My own voice whispered behind me, from inside the car. "Stay on the road." I turned. The driver's seat was empty. My reflection was still in the rear view mirror, grinning. My heart stuttered. The figure at the marker lifted its hand, beckoning, slow, steady. I took a step back. The gravel shifted beneath me, slick with moisture. The air shimmered faintly like heat waves in reverse, and for a second I saw something behind him. Rows of cars stretching into the dark, each parked perfectly in line. Headlights off, windshields fogged. Inside each car, a driver slumped forward, each one with my face. I stumbled back toward my car. My foot caught on the edge of the road and I fell hard onto the asphalt. The impact knocked the air out of me. When I looked up and the figure was standing over me. His expression changed, not anger, not pity, just recognition, as if we'd been waiting for this moment to happen again. He crouched. I felt the cold of his breath. "You missed your exit." I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't open. My jaw felt locked, heavy, like someone else's hand was moving it. He smiled wider. The edges of the world began to flicker. The air vibrated with static. "Stay on the road." Then everything went white. When I came to, the car was moving again. My hands on the wheel. The road stretching endlessly ahead. The GPS spoke in that same calm tone. "Continue straight for 10 miles. The radio was off. My reflection in the windshield looked normal, except the mile marker ahead glowed faintly. I laughed once, weakly, like maybe it was all a dream. But then the voice came again, from the passenger seat, and was soft, identical to mine. "Welcome back." And I realized I didn't know which one of us had said it. Now, every time I drive that route, the GPS still says, "Continue straight for 10 miles. And every few minutes, the sign reappears, mile marker 73. Sometimes, When I look out the window, I see my other self still standing there, waiting for me to take the wrong turn again. They say the dead can't smile, but I've seen one that did. The road was slick that night, rain tapering off into a mist that hovered low across the asphalt. The smell of wet leaves drifted through the crack in my window, sweet and faintly metallic. I'm Lauren Price, 28 hospice nurse in Maple Hollow. Maine, most nights I drive home long after midnight, tired enough to forget my own name. I keep the radio low, just enough to blur the silence. I like the company of soft noise, the hum of tires, the distant rhythm of wipers. After 12 hours surrounded by dying breath, it feels like proof the world's still alive. That night felt heavier. The air was too still, the kind that settles right before thunder. I could taste the storm building, the faint charge of ozone and gasoline from the nearby truck stop. I rubbed my neck trying to stay awake. My shift had been brutal. 2 new admissions, 3 deaths, 1 family screaming that I'd given up too soon. It's always like that. Someone always wants a villain. I told myself I'd sleep in tomorrow. Maybe cook breakfast with Eli if he wasn't still upset. We'd fought that morning, something about how I bring work home. But that's the thing about death. Once it clings to you, it doesn't wash off. I blinked, focusing on the narrow cone of headlights cutting through fog. Trees on both sides pressed close, black silhouettes dripping with rain. Then I saw it. Movement. In the mirror, a flicker of pale skin in the back seat. I almost didn't look. The body reacts before the brain can reason, muscles tightening, heartbeat stumbling. My eyes darted to the rear view, and I saw her, a woman, sitting behind me. Head tilted, hair matted against her face, lips parted in a slow, deliberate smile. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. I blinked, glanced back over my shoulder. Empty. When I looked forward again, the car swerved. Tires hissed across wet pavement, the steering wheel jerking in my hands. My breath came fast, fogging the glass. The mirror was empty. Just me. I slowed down, pulse hammering against my ribs. "You're overtired," I whispered. "You're just overtired." I'd seen worse. Patients who stared at ceilings, whispering to shadows that no one else could see. I knew what sleep deprivation could do. Still, I couldn't shake the image. That smile. Crooked, familiar. The dashboard clock blinked. 12:44 a.m. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A single notification lit the screen from an unknown number. "Thanks for the ride home." I almost dropped it. That was what Marianne used to say. Marianne, my last patient, 76, lung cancer. Sweet, stubborn, funny in the way people are when they know the end is close. Every night when I tucked her in, she'd murmur, "Thanks for the ride home," like she was already halfway gone. She died 2 nights ago. My throat went dry. I pulled over to the shoulder, engine idling, rain whispering against the roof. The phone slipped from my fingers into the dark. I didn't reach for it. The smell in the car changed, soft antiseptic over something sour, like hospital bleach mixed with rot. I turned off the radio. Silence bloomed too loud. Then from behind me, a voice, soft, close. "You forgot my smile." My hands froze on the steering wheel. The sound was faint, half air, half memory. I stared straight ahead, too afraid to move. The rear-view mirror fogged slowly, a thin sheen of moisture spreading across the glass. Then from the inside, a handprint pressed against it. 5 fingers dragging down, leaving trails in the condensation. My reflection blurred beneath it. I whispered, "Marianne." Before I could stop myself, no answer, just the rhythmic tap of rain. I threw the car into drive. The tires spun on the slick road before catching. I didn't care about speed limits or sanity anymore. I needed light, people, anything. The highway stretched ahead. Black road, white lines, nothing else. Every time I blinked, the world shifted. Headlights flickered. The forest leaned closer. And in every reflection, rear view, side mirror, window glass, her face hovered behind mine. The same gentle smile, the same eyes that never closed. I turned the mirrors down. Every single one. It didn't help. The radio clicked on by itself. Static filled the car, faint voices beneath it. Then one word broke through, soft and certain. Stop. I pressed the gas harder. The road didn't end. It just kept going, identical trees, identical turns. A loop without an edge. I whispered, wake up. But the world didn't shift. The air turned colder. My breath came out white. My skin prickled as though someone was leaning over my shoulder, breathing against my neck. The reflection in the windshield changed. Two faces now, mine and hers. Her head beside mine, mouth stretching wider. The static deepened. Beneath it, I could hear the slow rhythm of her breathing. Why are you here? I whispered. The voice that answered wasn't through the speakers. It was inside the car. You left before I finished. A memory surfaced. That last night. Marianne gripping my hand, whispering something I couldn't quite catch before she slipped away. The heart monitor beeped once, flatlined. I'd closed her eyes, but now I remembered. They hadn't stayed shut. She'd smiled. The wipers screeched once, long and slow, smearing water across glass. My headlights flickered. For one heartbeat, the world outside the car vanished, replaced by white light and shadowed figures standing in rows along the road. Patients. All of them. Faces I knew. They smiled, identical, heads tilted at the same impossible angle. When the light steadied, the road was empty again. I was crying without realizing it. The tears were warm against cold skin. Please, I whispered, just let me go home. The radio whispered back. Keep driving, or I'll show you where we stopped. I didn't understand what she meant, not until the next flash of lightning lit the road ahead. There was a car, my car, crashed into a guardrail, windshield shattered inward. Inside it, someone slumped over the wheel. Me. The world tilted. The steering wheel felt loose in my hands. The engine hummed, but the sound was wrong, hollow, distant, like it was coming from underwater. The reflection in the glass smiled again. I screamed, or thought I did. The sound barely left my throat. The figure in the back seat leaned forward, hand brushing my shoulder. Her touch was ice. You forgot my smile. And when I looked up, the mirror wasn't showing the road anymore. It was showing that same wreck, the same broken body, the same smile frozen on my own dead face. Rain started again, gentle, rhythmic, the sound almost peaceful. I turned off the engine. Silence. The mirror cleared slowly, but my reflection didn't come back, only hers. Mouth wide, teeth blackened, eyes empty. I shut my eyes and waited for the thunder. It never came. When I finally opened them, the car was still moving. The headlights cut through nothing. The radio whispered her laugh, soft, wheezing, endless. Now I drive in silence, no music, no mirrors. I tape cardboard over the rear view, keep the side mirrors turned toward the ground. Because every time I catch my reflection in a window, a puddle, a patient's open eyes, there's another smile behind mine. And sometimes, when I blink, I see her sitting there again, in the back seat, waiting. Phones don't scare me, they never have, but that night, they should have. The storm had followed me out of Pine Brook. Not a loud, violent storm, just a steady whisper of snow like someone breathing against the glass. The canyon road was narrow, twisting between walls of rock and pine. The headlights caught flakes in slow motion, turning the world into one long tunnel of white. I was 30, a radio technician. Late nights were nothing new. After years of crawling through signal towers and emergency frequency tests, darkness had become background, noise to me. But that night felt different. The dashboard clock read 1:12 a.m. The heater purred, softly. The car smelled like old coffee and cold air. I was halfway, through the canyon when the silence started pressing in, No music, no traffic, no sound except the hum of the tires on ice, the kind of quiet that makes you aware of every breath you take. I reached for my phone, thumb hovering over the Bluetooth icon. Maybe a little music would help keep me awake. That's when the call came. The screen blinked to life. Incoming call, unknown number. I hesitated for half a second, then swiped to answer. Hello? Static. Then, under the hiss, I heard a voice, my voice. Aaron, whatever you do, don't take the shortcut through Raven Road. The line clicked off. I froze, because I'd just been thinking about that shortcut. I drove this canyon twice a week, and Raven Road, if you could call it that, cut 15 minutes off the trip. Locals said it used to be an old logging route before it washed out. Dangerous in the snow, sure, but not impossible, and I remembered something else, something that hit me, like a punch in the gut. I'd already left that same voicemail earlier that night to myself, as a joke, testing an audio filter I'd been building for work. A ghost radio effect for the local station's Halloween show. I'd said the exact same words, but this wasn't a recording, this was live. I looked at the phone. The call log showed nothing. No missed calls, no recent voicemails. Just a single new file sitting in my voice memos folder. Tomorrow. I pressed play. My voice again, strained, whispering, barely audible under static. It wasn't a shortcut. It was a loop. The air in the car seemed to thicken. I turned down the heater, even though I could see my breath fogging the glass. Snow swirled harder outside like it was alive, drawn toward the beams of my headlights. Then, through the fog, I saw the road sign. Raven Road, next right. The metal glistened under a thin crust of ice, the exact road I'd been warned about. The headlights flickered. The radio hummed softly, and then through the static my voice came again. You didn't listen. The steering wheel trembled beneath my hands. My tires slid an inch over the slick pavement. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding. Every direction looked the same. Dark pines, falling snow, endless curves. But the sign stayed where it was, glowing faintly in the high beams. I should have turned back. I know that now. But something about the way the snow drifted toward the right shoulder, piling like soft white arrows, made it look like the only way forward. I eased off the brake. The GPS screen flickered on its own, recalculating. Then, rerouting to Raven Road. The voice that followed wasn't the usual GPS tone. It was mine. I laughed, out loud, because what else could I do? The kind of tired laugh that sounds like surrender. Okay, I muttered. Fine. One wrong turn, then I'm going home. The tires crunched over the edge of the pavement and onto the narrow dirt track. The trees closed in immediately. No guardrails. No reflectors. No sign of another car ever having been there. Just the sound of snow brushing against branches and the occasional creak of the chassis over frozen ground. I tried to keep my eyes on the road, but it was hard not to notice the way the darkness seemed to move between the trees. The GPS light flickered. Proceed for 1.4 miles. The voice was clearer now. Not mechanical. Human. My throat tightened. It wasn't repeating directions anymore. It was whispering something else. Don't stop. I turned down the volume, but the voice grew louder. You're close. The snow thickened. Visibility dropped to a few yards. I leaned forward, trying to see past the hood. Then a shape. In the road, a person. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded sideways, stopping just short of the figure. It was a woman, tall, hair hanging in wet clumps. She was turned away, standing perfectly still in the middle of the lane. Her clothes were soaked. Something about her stance felt familiar. I cracked the window. The air was sharp enough to burn my lungs. Hey, you need help? No answer. She didn't move. Just stood there, her head tilted slightly to the side, like she was listening. My headlights flickered again, and in that moment, she turned her face toward me. It was my face. My reflection, but drained of everything alive. Skin gray, eyes glassy, lips cracked open in a smile that didn't belong to me. The radio hissed. It wasn't a shortcut. I threw the car in reverse, but the tires spun uselessly against the slick ground. The woman's mouth moved, but I couldn't hear her through the static. I rolled up the window and slammed the locks. Bicker. Lights inside the car dimmed to a dull orange glow. Looked in the rearview mirror. The road behind me was gone, just snow, trees, blackness. I pressed the gas again, harder this time. The car lurched forward, tires clawing at the frozen dirt. When I looked up again, she was gone. The road stretched empty ahead, a narrow line disappearing into fog. I drove. Didn't think. Didn't blink, just drove. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The world outside never changed. Every bend in the road looked the same. Every tree seemed to lean the same way. Then faintly through the snow, a shape appeared ahead. A car. Headlights on. Same make. Same color. Mine. I followed the curve, heart hammering, and realized the truth too late. I was staring at myself again. The same car. The same license plate. The same dent in the fender. The other me was slumped over the wheel, face hidden by the glare. And then the radio whispered, barely audible under the static, "Loop complete." Something shifted in the air, a deep vibration that rattled the steering column. My phone lit up. Incoming call. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but the ringing didn't stop. It echoed inside my skull, each tone louder than the last. When it finally went silent, I checked the screen. New recording. Tomorrow. My hands shook as I hit play. My voice, hoarse, desperate. It wasn't a shortcut. It was a loop. The headlights flared white. The trees folded in, swallowing everything. Then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, morning light spilled across the snow. My car was parked at the edge of a narrow dirt path. The engine still running, the windshield coated in frost. The GPS showed a blank map. No roads, no coordinates, just a single word in the corner of the screen. Rerouting. They said they found me like that. Engine idling. Phone in my lap. Mouth open like I'd been. Mid-sentence, they said there was no sign of a crash. No footprints. No other vehicles. Just tire marks leading nowhere, stopping right where the road disappears into forest. I try not to think about that night. But sometimes, when the phone rings during my drive home, I still hear my voice beneath the static. Aaron, whatever you do, don't take the shortcut through Raven Road. And no matter where I am, I always check the time. It's always 1:12 a.m. GPS says 40 minutes home. That's what it always says. The rain was steady when I walked out of the hospital. Not heavy, not dramatic, just that slow, endless drizzle that makes everything feel like it's dissolving. The parking lot lights turned the wet asphalt into a sheet of glass, and for a second I could see myself staring back in the reflection. Pale, exhausted, hollow-eyed. I'm Nora Leland, 31, ER nurse from Raven County, Missouri. I'd just finished a double shift, 14 hours straight, and the hum of hospital machines still echoed somewhere in the back of my head. The air outside smelled like wet concrete and antiseptic. My hands smelled like latex gloves no matter how many times I washed them. When I finally got into my car, I just sat there for a minute with my forehead against the steering wheel. The clock on the dash read 1:47 a.m. The world outside was quiet except for the rain whispering against the windshield. I typed my address into the GPS even though I didn't need to. Habit, I guess. The screen lit up my tired face. Route 12, 40 minutes home. That's what it always said. The wipers moved back and forth like a heartbeat as I pulled out of the parking lot. The hospital lights disappeared behind me. For a while it was fine, empty road. Dark forest. The steady hum of tires on wet pavement. I should have been listening to music, but every song I tried sounded too alive for the silence. I ended up turning the radio off completely. Just me and the road. And the rain. Always the rain. Halfway down Route 12, my GPS glitched. It started as a flicker, a white flash across the map. Then the voice cut out mid-sentence. I tapped the screen. It blinked twice, then rerouted itself. Faster route found. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I frowned. I'd driven this road hundreds of times. There was no left turn. Not here. The screen zoomed in, showing a faint gray line branching off the main road, unnamed. I slowed down, squinting through the rain, and there it was. A break in the trees that hadn't been there a second ago. A narrow stretch of gravel disappearing into the fog. No sign, no lights, just darkness. The GPS voice repeated, softer this time, almost like it was whispering. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the power button. But something, curiosity, maybe, kept me from turning it off. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like an invitation. I turned. The sound changed immediately. The steady hiss of the highway gave way to the crunch of gravel. The forest seemed to close in around me. The trees taller, denser. My headlights caught the rain turning into mist, curling and twisting like smoke. After a few hundred feet, the signal bar on my phone vanished. No service. I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a shortcut, a faster route home, but the air felt wrong, thicker, colder. And beneath the hum of my engine, I heard it, a faint hiss like someone breathing through glass. I cracked the window to listen, but the sound didn't change. It wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from the car. I shook my head, forcing a laugh. Just road noise, just exhaustion. Then I saw the lights ahead, 2 faint red dots through the fog. Taillights. I wasn't alone. The relief was instant. Another driver, maybe taking the same detour. Someone else who trusted the GPS. As I got closer, I realized the car ahead was the same model as mine. Same shape, same color. A silver sedan. I flashed my brights once. No response. The car maintained its distance, steady as a metronome. When I slowed down, it slowed too. When I turned slightly to the left to avoid a pothole, it mirrored me exactly. The hairs on my arms lifted. I gripped the wheel tighter. Another turn appeared up ahead, one that hadn't been on the map. The other car took it without hesitation. I followed. The forest pressed closer now. The trees leaned over the road, their branches like fingers brushing the roof of the car. That's when I saw it. A road sign half buried in mud. Its letters faded but still readable. Hollow Bend Lane. My stomach tightened. The GPS voice crackled. Distorted. You have arrived. The other car stopped. I eased to a halt behind it, engine idling. The rain had stopped completely. The only sound was that faint hiss again. Louder now. Closer. The driver's door of the other car opened. A woman stepped out. She was wearing the same jacket as me. Same hair. Same everything. Even from that distance, I knew exactly what I was looking at. Myself. She turned toward me and smiled. The headlights flickered once, twice, then both cars went dark. For a moment, the world disappeared. Only the sound of breathing remained, 2 sets, mine and hers. I don't remember what happened next. I just remember light, too bright, too close, and the feeling of falling even though I was still sitting in the driver's seat. When I woke up, it was dawn. The rain was gone. The road was dry. I was back on Route 12, parked on the shoulder. The GPS screen was cracked, the map frozen on a blank white page. Route complete. No Hollow Bend Lane. No detour. No tire tracks behind me. The clock on the dash read 5:32 a.m. I should have been home hours ago. I drove the rest of the way in silence, too afraid to touch the GPS again. When I pulled into my driveway, everything looked normal. But when I stepped out of the car, I noticed something strange. Mud splattered across the tires, thick and dark. The kind of mud that doesn't exist on paved roads. And faintly carved into the dirt on the bumper, 3 letters. HBL. I didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? I tried to convince myself I'd fallen asleep at the wheel, that it had all been a dream. But dreams don't leave mud. They don't crack screens. And they don't whisper your name when you turn the car off, because that's what I heard the next night. I'd worked another shift, shorter this time. Got home by midnight, parked the car and sat for a while in the dark, engine off. Then, faintly, from the broken GPS speaker, Nora, soft, drawn out, like someone saying it from underwater. I unplugged the device. threw it onto the passenger seat. It stayed silent for the rest of the night, but the next morning, when I got in for work, it lit up by itself. Faster route found. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I yanked the cord. The screen went black. For a few seconds, I just sat there, breathing hard, trying not to look at the road outside. But when I finally started driving, I couldn't help glancing in the rearview mirror. And for a moment, just a split second, I saw taillights in the distance. 2 red dots, glowing faintly through the morning mist. Following, I blinked, and they were gone. Now, every time my GPS says rerouting, I pull over. I wait. I breathe because sometimes out of the corner of my eye I still see them. Those taillights waiting at the next turn. GPS says 40 minutes home. That's what it always says. The rain was steady when I walked out of the hospital. Not heavy, not dramatic, just that slow, endless drizzle that makes everything feel like it's dissolving. The parking lot lights turned the wet asphalt into a sheet of glass, and for a second I could see myself staring back in the reflection. Pale, exhausted, hollow-eyed. I'm Nora Leland, 31, ER nurse from Raven County, Missouri. I'd just finished a double shift, 14 hours straight, and the hum of hospital machines still echoed somewhere in the back of my head. The air outside smelled like wet concrete and antiseptic. My hands smelled like latex gloves no matter how many times I washed them. When I finally got into my car, I just sat there for a minute with my forehead against the steering wheel. The clock on the dash read 1:47 a.m. The world outside was quiet except for the rain whispering against the windshield. I typed my address into the GPS even though I didn't need to. Habit, I guess. The screen lit up my tired face. Route 12, 40 minutes home. That's what it always said. The wipers moved back and forth like a heartbeat as I pulled out of the parking lot. The hospital lights disappeared behind me. For a while it was fine, empty road. Dark forest. The steady hum of tires on wet pavement. I should have been listening to music, but every song I tried sounded too alive for the silence. I ended up turning the radio off completely. Just me and the road, and the rain, always the rain. Halfway down Route 12, my GPS glitched. It started as a flicker, a white flash across the map. Then the voice cut out mid-sentence. I tapped the screen. It blinked twice, then rerouted itself. Faster route found. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I frowned. I'd driven this road hundreds of times. There was no left turn. Not here. The screen zoomed in, showing a faint gray line branching off the main road, unnamed. I slowed down, squinting through the rain, and there it was. A break in the trees that hadn't been there a second ago. A narrow stretch of gravel disappearing into the fog. No sign, no lights, just darkness. The GPS voice repeated, softer this time, almost like it was whispering. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the power button. But something, curiosity, maybe kept me from turning it off. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like an invitation. I turned. The sound changed immediately. The steady hiss of the highway gave way to the crunch of gravel. The forest seemed to close in around me. The trees taller, denser. My headlights caught the rain turning into mist, curling and twisting like smoke. After a few hundred feet, the signal bar on my phone vanished. No service. I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a shortcut, a faster route home, but the air felt wrong, thicker, colder. And beneath the hum of my engine, I heard it, a faint hiss like someone breathing through glass. I cracked the window to listen, but the sound didn't change. It wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from the car. I shook my head, forcing a laugh. Just road noise, just exhaustion. Then I saw the lights ahead, 2 faint red dots through the fog. Taillights. I wasn't alone. The relief was instant. Another driver, maybe taking the same detour. Someone else who'd trusted the GPS. As I got closer, I realized the car ahead was the same model as mine. Same shape, same color. A silver sedan. I flashed my brights once. No response. The car maintained its distance, steady as a metronome. When I slowed down, it slowed too. When I turned slightly to the left to avoid a pothole, It mirrored me exactly. The hairs on my arms lifted. I gripped the wheel tighter. Another turn appeared up ahead, one that hadn't been on the map. The other car took it without hesitation. I followed. The forest pressed closer now. The trees leaned over the road, their branches like fingers brushing the roof of the car. That's when I saw it. A road sign half buried in mud. Its letters faded but still readable. Hollow Bend Lane. My stomach tightened. The GPS voice crackled. Distorted. You have arrived. The other car stopped. I eased to a halt behind it, engine idling. The rain had stopped completely. The only sound was that faint hiss again. Louder now. Closer. The driver's door of the other car opened. A woman stepped out. She was wearing the same jacket as me. Same hair. Same everything. Even from that distance, I knew exactly what I was looking at. Myself. She turned toward me and smiled. The headlights flickered once, twice, then both cars went dark. For a moment, the world disappeared. Only the sound of breathing remained, two sets, mine and hers. I don't remember what happened next. I just remember light, too bright, too close, and the feeling of falling even though I was still sitting in the driver's seat. When I woke up, it was dawn. The rain was gone. The road was dry. I was back on Route 12, parked on the shoulder. The GPS screen was cracked, the map frozen on a blank white page. Route complete. No Hollow Bend Lane. No detour. No tire tracks behind me. The clock on the dash read 5:32 a.m. I should have been home hours ago. I drove the rest of the way in silence, too afraid to touch the GPS again. When I pulled into my driveway, everything looked normal. But when I stepped out of the car, I noticed something strange. Mud splattered across the tires, thick and dark. The kind of mud that doesn't exist on paved roads. And faintly carved into the dirt on the bumper, 3 letters. HBL. I didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? I tried to convince myself I'd fallen asleep at the wheel, that it had all been a dream. But dreams don't leave mud. They don't crack screens. And they don't whisper your name when you turn the car off, because that's what I heard the next night. I'd worked another shift, shorter this time. Got home by midnight, parked the car and sat for a while in the dark, engine off. Then, faintly, from the broken GPS speaker, Nora, soft, drawn out, like someone saying it from underwater. I unplugged the device, threw it onto the passenger seat. It stayed silent for the rest of the night, but the next morning, when I got in for work, it lit up by itself. Faster route found. Turn left onto Hollow Bend Lane. I yanked the cord. The screen went black. For a few seconds, I just sat there, breathing hard, trying not to look at the road outside. But when I finally started driving, I couldn't help glancing in the rearview mirror. And for a moment, just a split second, I saw taillights in the distance. 2 red dots, glowing faintly through the morning mist. Following. I blinked, and they were gone. Now, every time my GPS says rerouting, I pull over. I wait. I breathe because sometimes out of the corner of my eye, I still see them. Those taillights waiting at the next turn. The first thing I noticed were the headlights. Bright, steady, always 2 car lengths behind me. The road stretched out like a black ribbon through the forest, wet asphalt reflecting light in fractured streaks, pine trees pressing close on both sides. The kind of road that feels like it never ends, just folds back into itself under the fog. I'm Liam Torres, 29 night shift mechanic from Clearview, Oregon. I was driving home after closing up shop, a 40-minute trip through back roads I could drive blindfolded. I've done it hundreds of times. Same road, same silence, but that night, it felt different. The forest was too still, the air too heavy, and those headlights, they never blinked out of my mirror. At first I figured it was someone else heading home late. Happens all the time out here. Maybe another guy off the night shift or a long-haul trucker avoiding the highway. But when I slowed down, they slowed too. When I sped up, they matched me perfectly. I flicked my turn signal once, pretending to take an exit that wasn't there. The lights followed. I took another turn, sharper this time, tires hissing against the slick road. Still there. The headlights didn't waver. Not closer. Not farther. Just steady. That's when it hit me. I hadn't seen a single other car the whole drive. Not one. Just those lights. The thought sat heavy in my chest. I tried to shake it off, but the longer they stayed behind me, the more wrong it felt. The fog thickened. My headlights caught it in beams, turning the air white and grainy. The smell of wet pine filled the car. Cold seeped through the vents. I gripped the wheel tighter, eyes flicking from the mirror to the road. The hum of my tires grew louder in the silence, steady, hypnotic. I told myself to pull over. Let them pass. That was logical, so I did. I eased onto the shoulder, gravel crunching beneath my tires. The other car slowed, its beams cutting through the mist until it stopped 50 feet behind me. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. The headlights stayed on. No engine noise. No door opening. Just light, steady and white, burning into the mirrors. The kind of brightness that felt like it was watching. I turned off my engine. The sudden silence rang in my ears. My breath fogged the windshield. My pulse sounded too loud. I stared at those lights until the edges of my vision began to blur. "Hey!" I shouted through the open window, voice cracking in the cold. "You okay back there?" No answer. Just a faint hum, maybe my own engine cooling. Maybe not. Then the lights blinked once and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. The kind that doesn't just hide the world. It erases it. I couldn't even see the trees. Only the faint outline of my own hands on the steering wheel. The air smelled like metal and rain. Something in my chest twisted. That quiet, animal panic that tells you something's watching, even when you can't see it. I reached for the ignition, heart hammering. The key turned, nothing, no click, no whine, just silence. Then, light again. Only this time it wasn't behind me, it was inside. The dashboard glowed faint blue, the air vents hummed softly, and through the rearview mirror I saw them, 2 beams of light shining from the trunk, like something alive was breathing beneath the metal. I froze. My throat locked. The glow pulsed once, faint and rhythmic, in sync with my heartbeat. The car shuddered. The radio clicked on by itself. Static filled the cab, slow and heavy like someone breathing through water. Then a voice whispered through it. "Thanks for the ride." "Liam," the words stretched out, distorted, but clear enough to sink into me. My whole body went cold. I slammed the door open and stumbled out into the dark. The gravel shifted beneath my boots, echoing like footsteps. I spun around, but there was nothing behind me. No car, no headlights. Just fog curling across the road, pale and silent. My car's trunk glowed faintly from within, soft light spilling through the seams. It looked almost alive. Then, a sound, faint, slow. Knock. From inside the trunk. I took a step backward. Knock. Knock. The sound grew louder. More urgent. The air smelled different now, not sweet, like rot and gasoline mixed. I fumbled for my phone, flashlight on, screen shaking in my hand. The beam cut through the fog. For a second, I thought I saw movement behind the trees. A shape, pale and still, standing between the trunks. Then the trunk of my car clicked. Not open, just unlocked. I couldn't breathe. The radio inside was still hissing softly, static rising and falling like a heartbeat. Then the voice came again. "Open it." "Liam." I don't remember deciding to move. I just found myself walking toward the back of the car. The metal gleamed wet under the flashlight. My reflection in the bumper looked wrong, stretched, delayed, smiling a split second late. The glow from inside pulsed brighter now, light leaking through every seam. It didn't feel like something trapped. It felt like something waiting. I reached for the handle. My hand hovered over it, trembling. The air buzzed with static. And just before I touched the latch, the headlights behind me came back on. Blinding. I spun, arm over my face. The road was empty. No sound. No engine. Just those two white beams cutting through the fog. I blinked and realized the light wasn't coming from behind me anymore. It was coming from the forest. Dozens of pairs of headlights, deep between the trees, flickering on one by one. Each pair steady. Each one aimed at me. The forest glowed white. The trunk behind me clicked open. Light poured out, flooding the ground at my feet, and the voice whispered again. You shouldn't have stopped. I ran. Didn't look back. Didn't think. Branches whipped my arms, my legs. The fog thickened, choking me as I stumbled through the trees. When I finally broke through to the next clearing, my knees gave out. Silence. The lights were gone. My car was gone. Only the smell remained. Rain, metal, and that sickly sweet rot. I walked until I hit the main road. A passing truck picked me up near dawn. I didn't tell the driver what happened. I just stared out the window, watching every light that passed. By the time I made it home, the morning sun felt wrong, too pale, too weak. I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke, the house felt colder than it should have been. I told myself it was over, until I walked out to the driveway. My car was there, perfectly clean, keys in the ignition, and in the rearview mirror, two faint white orbs of light glowing from the back seat. Now, whenever I drive at night, I keep the rear view tilted down, because sometimes, when I forget, I still see them, those headlights, burning soft and steady from inside the car. It was past midnight when the fuel light came on. That dull orange glow on the dashboard, the one that always feels like a warning, not a reminder. The highway stretched out like a scar through the Nevada desert, flat and endless. I'd been driving for hours, eyes half on the road, half on the reflection of my own headlights bouncing off the faded paint lines. No towns, no lights, just darkness and the kind that feels alive. I'm Travis Keene, 35, traveling back from a late service call in Hollow Ridge. A busted satellite dish, 2 hours of silence, and a long drive home. My body was running on gas station coffee and the hum of my truck's engine. The desert has its own kind of quiet. Not peaceful, suffocating. It presses against you until the only thing you can hear is your pulse. When the fuel light came on, I swore under my breath. The next station was supposed to be 30 miles back. I hadn't seen another car in at least an hour. Then, just when I thought I'd have to sleep in the cab until morning, I saw it, a flicker in the distance. At first, I thought it was lightning, but the sky was clear. Then it came again, steady, rhythmic. A sign. Gas. Food. Open. The arrow blinked faintly through the dark, pointing down a side road. I almost laughed. I hadn't passed a single billboard or sign on this route all night, but suddenly there was a station just when I needed it most. I turned onto the dirt road. The tires crunched through gravel. The air through the open window smelled like dust and metal, sharp, electric. After a minute or two, the light grew clearer. A small gas station, no brand name, no logo. Just a single bulb buzzing above the pumps and a flickering open sign behind the window. The whole place looked like it had been built before color existed. I pulled up to the nearest pump. The needle on my gauge was kissing empty. When I stepped out, the night hit me, dry and heavy, the kind of heat that makes the air hum. The smell was strange. Not just oil and gasoline, but something sweet beneath it. Rotting fruit. I tried to shake it off, popped open the gas cap, and reached for the nozzle. It was already in the pump, and it clicked on by itself. Fuel started flowing. The handle locked in place. I froze. Then I heard a faint sound behind me, the chime of a door opening. The station's lights flickered on, one by one like the place was waking up. I stepped inside. The air was colder in there. Still smelled wrong, though, like burnt oil and something spoiled hiding under it. The man behind the counter looked up. Thin face, eyes too bright, smile too quick. He didn't blink for a long time. Long night? He asked. His voice didn't match his face. Too calm, too even. Like someone reading from a page. I nodded, handed him a 20. He stared at it. Didn't take it. Won't be needing that soon, he said. I laughed, trying to brush it off. Yeah, well, just need a full tank. He didn't move. Just kept smiling. The fluorescent light above us stuttered. Once, twice, and in that flicker, I caught something in the reflection behind him. His reflection. It was still smiling. But he wasn't. The real man's face had gone blank, eyes fixed on me. The smile stayed only in the glass. I stepped back. My throat felt dry. That's when I heard it, a faint metallic clunk outside. The pump. It had stopped by itself. I turned around. Through the front window I saw my car door hanging open. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. I bolted outside. The heat hit me again. Thicker this time, like breathing through sand. The seat was empty, but the air smelled like smoke now. Faint, familiar, like burned rubber. I looked down. The ground around the car was wet, dark stains leading away from the pump. Gasoline. I spun toward the station. The man was gone. The door hung open, swinging gently in the wind. Inside, everything looked different. Dust covered the shelves. The candy displays were cracked. The soda cooler was empty, door hanging open. The fluorescent lights buzzed weakly, flickering over cobwebs that shouldn't have been there minutes ago. I walked up to the counter. The register was rusted, half buried under a layer of grime, and taped to it was a photo. It was me, standing at the pump, smiling. I stumbled back, the edge of the counter scraping my palm. I didn't remember taking that picture. I didn't even remember stopping here before. My hands were shaking. I ran back outside, fumbling for my keys. The car door slammed itself shut. I yanked it open again, heart hammering. The seats were empty. But my wallet was gone. My breath fogged the glass, even though the desert air was still warm. Something moved behind me. A shadow, soft and slow, sliding across the pumps. I turned, but there was nothing there. Only the sign buzzing faintly above me. Open. Except now the letters didn't look right. The last one had burned out. Ope. It pulsed almost like it was breathing. I didn't wait to see more. I threw myself into the driver's seat, slammed the key into the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then caught. I looked up one last time at the window of the station. The man was standing there again. Same smile. And behind him, in the glass, I saw a second reflection, mine, standing beside him, smiling too. I floored the gas. The tires screamed against the gravel. The station disappeared behind me in the mirror, swallowed by the dark. But as I hit the main road, I caught something in the rear view that made my stomach drop. The reflection didn't match my speed. It lagged behind, just half a second too slow, like the world was trying to catch up. I didn't stop driving until I saw the lights of a diner glowing on the horizon. I pulled in, heart still racing, hands trembling. The neon sign buzzed weakly, its letters half burned out, "Eat here," flashing one syllable at a time. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and grease. The waitress smiled, normal, tired, real. "Rough night?" she asked. I nodded, ordered black coffee, and didn't say much else. When she brought the cup, I noticed something sticking out from underneath the saucer. Photo me, at the counter of the gas station, smiling. The coffee trembled in my hand. I looked up to ask where she'd found it, but the seat across from me wasn't empty anymore. A man sat there, thin face, bright eyes, smiling too quickly. "Long night?" he asked. I dropped the photo. The smell hit me again, burnt oil and something sweet, rotting underneath. I looked toward the window. Through the glass, the parking lot was empty, except for one thing. My car, still at the pump, the fuel nozzle hanging from its side, and my reflection, standing next to it, smiling just a little too far behind.